It was almost real, the Pro Wrestling History Podcast, episode 67. Hello and welcome to this episode of It Was Almost Real, the Pro Wrestling History Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to professional wrestling history from 1870 to 1930. And joining me back in studio this week is my cousin Dangerous Dan, the right-hand man. How's it going, Dan?
I've got about another 10 days of restoration, and I believe that's when you can spring me.
Yep, September 30th we're gonna make the jailbreak, so.
All right, sounds good. No, I'm still on the mend, and it'll be, it'll probably be around the first of the new year before I'm fully functional again, and taking care of business like I should. So.
Well, we all look forward to that, but it's good to get you back on the podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be back.
I did decide to go with your suggestion, and we are going to be a weekly podcast, WEEKLY, not WEAKLY. But I said that to do that, we may occasionally have episodes where we'll do a review. So I know we still want to watch Iron Claw, and that is on Amazon Prime now. So when you come over for dinner one night, we'll watch it, and then we'll do the review for the show.
Okay, that sounds good.
And then I also figured we could do maybe a SummerSlam review with Trey and Caleb just to get their perspective, being, not wrestling fans.
Yeah.
But before we get into anything else, I have got to tell you about a baffling incident that happened this morning. That if he did not look so much like me, I would have ordered a DNA test this morning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So after the Solomon's cross-country meet this morning, I stopped at McDonald's to get Connor a hash brown and to get Caleb some breakfast.
Yeah.
And he ordered a large unsweetened tea.
Connor did.
No, not Connor. Caleb.
Oh, Caleb. Okay, a large sweetened tea. Okay.
An unsweetened tea. And I looked at him like he was out of his mind, and he said, "Dad, it's 0 calories." I said, "Caleb, elephant urine may be 0 calories too. That doesn't mean I want to drink a big glass of it."
All right, exactly. Jesus.
I'm like,
drinking unsweetened tea is like drinking
bitter,
something that I can't mention on this podcast.
Bitter brown water.
Yeah. Exactly what it is.
If somebody walked in my house right now, pointed a gun at me, and said, "You're either going to drink this unsweet tea, or I'm going to shoot you," I would say, "Well, are we talking about a graze wound or a headshot? Because if it's a graze wound, just go ahead and shoot."
Right, wing me.
Yeah. I was like, sweet tea is one of the gifts from the gods or goddesses or the universe, whatever you believe or don't believe. But but unsweetened tea is a crime against humanity. That's just wrong on so many levels.
That's what the Northerners drink.
I don't know who drinks that. That would just be, ugh.
Yeah.
So I just looked at him and I was like, if you didn't look like me, I'd wonder if you were my son.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't push him out of the car.
Well, I didn't want to do that in front of the grandson. That might traumatize him.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, that was quite shocking. It took me a while to recover from that.
Wow. Unsweetened tea. Phew.
Mm.
And a large one at that.
Yeah. Because I told him, I said, if somebody offered me a large thing of unsweet tea or a large thing of elephant urine, I would take the unsweetened tea. But it's not by as big a margin as you think it might be.
Right, exactly. Well, that just puts a bad taste in my mouth. Ugh.
Yeah. So,
I didn't even taste any. I haven't even drinking anything today.
Well, it always cracks me up when you go to restaurants and you'll say, "Hey, do you have sweet tea?" "Oh yeah, we've got unsweet tea, and we'll bring you sugar." You could bring me a bag of sugar; it's not going to help. I don't know what it is about tea that unsweetened tea at a restaurant. You could put 10 sugar packets in there, and you'll just get the faintest hint of sweetness in that tea. It's like it's a black hole of taste.
Like somebody's soup.
Yeah, well, they're still alive, so let's not talk about that.
Yeah, that's why I said. That's why I didn't mention any names.
That was a black hole of flavor too. Yes, you are correct, sir. So I thought this week, Dan, we would just kind of get caught up on the news because I know that. Have you had a chance to listen to any of Dutch's episodes?
No. I tell you what, I have not had my earbuds charged up.
Oh, gotcha. Well, then let's just kind of go through the news. I just wrote down a few things for us to go over, and if we have time, I'll pop in a history topic, but this might take us a while to get through all of this.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done this. So.
Yeah, so since AEW tends to be a bit of a pinata when we start talking about it every once in a while.
Oh, okay, okay, hold on.
Well, you had a thought, so go ahead and say it while it's on your mind.
Remind me to come back to AEW when you're done talking about this.
Okay, well, we got a bunch. We got at least 3 AEW things to discuss.
Okay.
But let's start with WWE news first.
Okay.
Raw and SmackDown still tend to be a little boring if the Bloodline's not involved or one of the major angles. But if you watch the Premium Live event, the whole thing is really good. And they're getting it down to where it's 5 or 6 matches and it's only 3 hours. So it's well worth watching. Whereas the weekly shows are kind of blah.
Yeah.
NXT is the exact opposite. NXT, the shows are better. If you watch the Premium Live events, I was taken out of it by the second match. It was just a bunch of moves. There was no story to it whatsoever. Now, the matches that I was looking forward to, they did tell a better story, but I had turned it off, and I came back to it later because I was so turned off by those first few matches.
Right. Well, I've never watched the NXT Premium Live event, so I don't know how those actually work. Well,
you haven't missed a thing. Sheamus just signed a new 5-year deal with WWE.
Okay.
And
I hope they figure out how to use them.
Do you see anything odd about that?
He signed a 5-year deal and he hasn't been on TV in about a year.
Yeah, because he was hurt. He's 46 years old. So that means that deal's going to go till he's 51.
I mean, I don't.
He's in great shape, and I love his YouTube show, the Celtic Warrior Workouts. But I'm like, why do you sign a 46-year-old guy to a 5-year deal? I could see a 2 or 3. And then if he's still healthy and everything in 3 years, then you renew it, or, a 2 or 3 year deal with a renewable year for 2 or 3 years after. I don't get why you sign somebody who's 46 to a 5-year deal, particularly after he's just been hurt for a year.
Right. Yeah. That's like signing a 40-year-old baseball pitcher to a 10-year deal.
Yeah. Why would you sign him for that long term of a deal? Why wouldn't you do shorter term with renewable options?
Exactly. Well, I mean, hey, if he got it and they're going to pay him,
good on him.
Yeah, exactly. Bully to him. So.
And the one thing I'll say in support of it, Sheamus wrestles a style that you can do as an older person. He's not doing the flips and the flops and the flies around. He's doing a ground-based mat wrestling and brawling style which you can do
Yeah.
for a lot longer. And he keeps himself in fantastic shape, too.
Right, exactly. Well, like I said, I've always enjoyed watching Sheamus wrestle, and then I didn't know he got hurt enough to be
yeah, he was out.
taken off TV.
Oh, yeah, he was injured, and I'm shouldn't do this off the top of my head, but I think it was a shoulder.
Oh, okay.
And then
that'll do it.
My last one or two little WWE points. Kevin Owens' deal is up soon, and people are feeling like he's probably going to go to AEW this time.
Why would you want to do that?
You know, Kevin Owens knows most of the people that are there. He's friends with them. I think a lot of people were surprised that he didn't go last time, but AEW was in such a mess last time. They're not in a mess now. They're just poorly run and poorly managed.
Yeah.
If I was Tony Khan, I would give Kevin Owens a big contract because he's one of the few people out there with WWE that could probably bring you some crossover audience.
Okay.
So I personally think Owens would be a good investment for AEW.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's what Kevin Owens wanted to do, I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't even, look twice at AEW unless the offer was just substantial. But once again, I just hope that Kevin Owens doesn't get lost in that massive humanity that Tony Khan calls a wrestling roster.
Yeah, well, we're going to actually talk about that because there's news about the AEW TV deal. And I did go into it a little bit in the last podcast, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it as well. Because I think this is going to give AEW an opportunity. I don't think they're going to take advantage of it, unfortunately. But I think that it really could be an opportunity to help them kind of turn things around. I don't have a whole lot of hope for the creative. But Owens is enough of a stickler, just like CM Punk was able to successfully do stuff the way he wanted it done. I think Owens will be able to do the same thing. Hopefully, Owens' instincts are better than Jericho's and some of these other guys that he's been around well-run organizations enough to know what works, what doesn't work, and not to get any on him, you know. But I think Owens would be a great get for AEW if they got him. And Zayn, I think, might follow. Now, WWE might be less willing to let Zayn go. They'll probably make him a big offer, but if Zayn decides he wants to go with Owens, and he's friends with all those guys too, Zayn could end up leaving.
Right. Well, I just hope he doesn't end up like all those other WWE wrestlers that have gone over there.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that chance. Edge really didn't know anybody when he went over there. Neither did a lot of the other veterans like Big Show and Mark Henry. Kevin Owens has wrestled these guys on the independents. He knows them. There's less of a chance that he'll be kind of pushed off to the sidings or doing stupid stuff.
Yeah. Well, who do they got wrestling Mark Henry over there? My goodness.
No, Mark Henry left, and he was basically he envisioned his role as a backstage coach, and he was going to be an announcer, and they used him for announcing for just a little bit. But apparently they don't listen real well in the back, which is a common theme we've heard repeatedly from people that have been there and left, that the talent think they know everything and won't listen to anybody. And that's kind of the way Mark put it, was he thought he was going to be able to impart more knowledge, but that knowledge wasn't always freely accepted.
Oh, okay.
And one last thing for WWE. I had not a freaking clue about this.
Uh,
Did you know Bob Backlund wrestled Mike Sharp for the world title at Madison Square Garden during 1983?
they didn't have anybody. There's 83 million people in this world. Those are the they can get to wrestle.
Well, what I think happened is you remember when Mike Sharp had that run in Mid-South,
Mm-hmm.
and Bill Watts really knew how to use him.
Yeah.
He was kind of over in Mid-South. Well, this is when he went from Mid-South back to New York, and initially he was undefeated for his first few months back in New York, and that's what led to the match between him and Backlund. But
Oh.
within the next few months after that, then Vince started using him as an enhancement talent.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. I had no idea that the two of them wrestled at Square Garden. I'd have lost that trivia question or bet a million times over because I didn't.
Because I would have picked anybody else.
Yeah, I would not have seen him getting a world title shot. And
I mean,
it
I would
wasn't
have
that he was
picked,
a schlub. It's just I saw him lose so many matches during the 80s on primetime wrestling. I think the only match I ever saw him won. The only match I ever saw him win was he beat Stevie Aoki on a primetime match one time, I think. Other than that, I don't think I've ever seen him win a match. Other than
DiBiase doing the $1 Million Man thing.
no, not DiBiase, Stevie Aoki. Remember the really small guy they brought in to replace Jimmy Snuka, and it didn't work at all? Yeah. Yeah, no. Mike Sharp, he wouldn't have beat Ted DiBiase whether Ted DiBiase was in WWE or up in or down in Mid-South or Georgia or wherever. Yeah, that wasn't ever going to happen.
That's what I was going to say. What?
Yeah, no. Stevie Aoki. Sorry. I put the accent Groff on the wrong place, obviously. AEW is constantly saying that they have the best wrestling matches.
Yeah.
A lot of them are not to my taste, but they probably have better workers, maybe. Not bigger stars. That's a different story. But they, as a group, may have better workers, and you may be putting on overall, because there's a lot of garbage in there, you may be putting overall better matches. But JCP had much better matches than WWF in the 1980s. But what was the biggest company?
Yes.
What company drew 90 something million or 90 something thousand fans to, and whether it was 90 something or 85, no company had drawn that many fans to a stadium before for a wrestling event until Andre took on Hogan. That was not the best match on that card. Savage versus Steamboat was by a mile. But what?
Yeah, that was the main event.
But what match drew that crowd? Andre versus Hogan.
Yeah.
And AEW might have better matches, but better matches don't mean you draw more fans and you draw more money, which is the purpose of a wrestling company.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. Just when I go on my little speech, they don't have better matches.
They're not to my taste, that's for sure. It's too much garbage. It's too much of the extreme and all of that. But I will say, put a Danielson versus MJF, put a Danielson versus Buddy Matthews. I'd watch that match all day long and twice on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Anything with Buddy Matthews or Aleister Black in it.
Yeah, get Daniels in there.
Watch.
Yeah. So you'd have some good matches that are better than probably most of what you'll see. The match of the year for WWE in 2021 was Aleister Black, who is now Malachi Black, versus Buddy Murphy, who is now Buddy Matthews. That was the best match they had on a pay-per-view all year long. 2020 or 2021.
Yeah.
You've got those same guys in AEW now stuck in a group where they're being covered up. And so let's jump into AEW. So the big news, and I talked about this last week, is AEW's right renewal. It looks like they're going to get a deal in the neighborhood of $170 million a year. And it's not only for their TV shows, which they're going to continue to have TV shows on TBS and TNT, but it looks like they'll also be on True TV. It looks like the library will be on the Max streaming service, and they may have some kind of partnership. Whether it's, I guess it would have to be Max. I don't know how they would have a pay-per-view partnership with TBS or TNT, but the pay-per-views would be a partnership. So I don't know if it would be a premium live event like the WWE has with Peacock and that, or if it would be actually like on the pay-per-view format with Max, though, as the streaming service, because that's the exact same thing UFC has with ESPN Plus. If you want to watch the UFC pay-per-views, you have to order them through ESPN Plus. So I think all of those are positives. I think it's a gift because the smallest audience ever for AEW Dynamite has happened within the past 2 weeks, and they have been bleeding viewers all year. So in 2021, their shows were averaging 1 million plus fans. The Dynamite. This year, it's between 600,000 and 800,000, and they've done a couple 500,000 audience. Yes. So they're bleeding fans. They're running off their most ardent fans. So they really need to right the ship. I'm hoping that. I don't expect Tony Khan to come out and say, "Yeah, we're taking on water and we realize this and everything." He's going to keep coming out saying it's great. But I hope he at least knows in his head that it's not great and that he's got to make some adjustments. And this gives him the money to do it.
And what's the best way to ride a ship?
Well, I think the first thing he needs to do is cut a bunch of talents. And one of the things that came out...
Get rid of the weight. Get rid of excess weight.
Well,
throw it overboard.
And here's some excess weight that he could get rid of real quick that I'm sure he overpaid for. Miro asked for his release from AEW yesterday. And Miro.
Oh.
And Tony should give that to him so quick it makes his head swim. Miro is 38 years old. Even if WWE takes him back, he is not going to make a big impact on WWE's business. He'll be a mid-card guy. He'll be somebody that the younger guys defeat to move up on the card. He's not going to make that big, but he'll help the AEW's bottom line because I'm sure they overpaid for him. And say Tony Khan wants to use him in the future, work out a deal with him to bring him back on a per date thing. So you don't give him a contract. You just say, "Hey, I want to book you for this thing, and I'll send you the date agreement," and you book him for the one match. But do not. He needs to quit giving every single soda jerk that he uses one time on his TV show or his pay-per-view a long-term contract. Give them all, if you want to work out a per-date agreement, something like that, book them for a date, but don't give them a contract for other than that date.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the first thing that they should do is start cutting some of the people that they are never using. And then the other thing I had suggested, and I want your thoughts on this, I thought that he should divide up his roster, and so with Dynamite, use the people that you're pushing at the top and you're wanting to...
And have a tournament.
No, don't have another tournament. That's all he ever does is have tournaments.
Sorry, go ahead.
But take the guys and who you're going to push and then take the group of people that you would like to build up and would like to be your future stars.
Yeah.
And start using them more on the Collision show, which they're saying that they need to build up. So get a Buddy Matthews, a couple of these guys that you got that are really good, who are buried in groups and stuff, and have them start beating people. those groups that you're going to use for the shows, then come up with a rotor where they're not on TV every single freaking week, and you burn the fans out on the people.
Yeah, and quit having bladder matches.
Right.
And quit having the gimmicks.
Right.
Have a wrestling show.
Quit having everybody juice. Everybody knows now that people are cutting their heads. Now that everybody knows that's what's happening, how many people do you think want to watch people get bloody when they know all the idiot's doing is cutting his own head? Now the girls are getting juiced too. You know, and people know they're razor blading themselves.
Yeah.
It would be different if it was an accidental hard way every great once in a while. But knowing that this is how they do it, it's like, why are these idiots cutting themselves?
Yeah, exactly.
And then,
like, you know, when you used to watch say a Dusty Rhodes and a Ric Flair cage match,
we didn't know they were cutting their heads.
Yeah, we thought it was because of the cage.
Yep.
So it goes to show you how smart we were, huh?
Yeah. We knew something was going on. We just weren't quite sure what.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that they should push the top tier are the guys they want to make top tier. Put them on Dynamite. That I bring all those overpriced, big names that you brought to the roster. Bring them on, put them on Dynamite, and then use your Collision show to build up some of these younger guys that you do want to take to Dynamite eventually. You know?
Yeah.
And like you said, these other idiots don't put the same. Tony Khan could put somebody different on TV for 26 weeks, and we'd never see the same person.
Right. That's the biggest issue. And so once you've got your roster, and once you've worked out a rotor where you can rotate these guys off, then cut the rest of them. And if you want to bring them back for your what is that one joint promotion thing he does with New Japan?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Forbidden Kingdom. If you want to do that Forbidden Kingdom pay-per-view every year, and you want to introduce, I'm going to bring in this person that nobody has ever seen all year long, bring him in on a per-date agreement. And then don't sign him to a long-term contract so that you could bring him out once a year for Forbidden Kingdom, and then they go off and do whatever the heck they're going to do for the rest of the year. Be a business person. Quit running this like a hobby. Run it like a business.
Exactly. No, I said that have a tournament because what does Tony Khan like more than anything?
Have a tournament.
Yeah.
Oh God! If he has any more tournaments, I'm getting as sick of the tournament as I am of all the garbage matches and stuff.
Oh yeah, gimmick matches.
Yeah, the ladder matches. I'm getting as sick of the tournaments as I am of the freaking ladder matches. AEW, WWE, any other wrestling company that comes up in the next 15 years, if you bring back Ed Strangler Lewis and John the Nebraska Tiger Man Pesic, and they were going to have a match, and you said it was going to be a ladder match, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to go see Lewis and Pesic.
Yeah.
Although I would hope that Lewis and Pesic wouldn't be stupid enough to do it.
But they'd look at kind of go, are you nuts?
Well,
we're not going to do that.
Yeah, I've always said about doing stuff with Harley. So if Orange Cassidy was around back when Harley was wrestling, and he told Harley, I'm going to put my hands in my pockets and I'm going to run and dive over the ropes and land on you. Harley go, oh, really? And Harley do one of two things. He'd either just step out of the way and let the guy crash and burn, and he would never do that again, or Harley would punch him right in the face as he was coming flying in.
Yeah.
That's why that kind of stuff didn't happen back then, because the veterans were like, no, we're not doing that.
Right,
But now these guys are like, oh, yeah, dive on me.
Yeah, or yeah, put me on my face on the concrete outside the ring. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I don't mind trying to catch you and break my leg in half.
you're right. Yeah, yeah. I tell you what. But getting back to my AEW experience, um, I found it one night. I guess it was Collision. Yeah, that was the one. That's the one on TBS.
Yes, it's on Saturday night.
Oh no, this one was on Wednesday night or something
That's
like that.
Dynamite. Dynamite's the Wednesday night show. That's their flagship.
Okay, because on Saturday nights I watch Hulu. So
Well, me too,
uh,
but
yeah,
and tonight it's
this
going to
week,
be Kolchak the Night Stalker, which is a TV movie from the 70s. I'm not quite sure how that makes classic monster films, but
yeah, and Darren McGavin is going to be playing Full Check. I don't know how that's going to go.
yeah.
Because when I see him, I think of him as Darren on Bewitched.
You know, I never knew that Kolchak was a TV show. I had just seen that movie back on Channel 11 back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a made for TV movie. I didn't know they made a TV series off of it after it was on.
Yeah.
Until, later when it was on MeTV.
Yeah, and it's funny because we're going to have a Kolchak movie. Oh, and tonight on Batman, it's going to be the last time that Burgess Paris plays the Penguin on Batman tonight.
Oh wow.
So after then, there's no more Penguin by Burgess Meredith. I think he's the only one that did it.
Yeah, I don't remember. There was a different John Aston played Riddler as well as Frank
Yeah,
Gorshin. But I think that Burgess was the only Penguin and Cesar Romero was the only Joker.
yeah. Now there was about 4 Catwomen.
Yeah, I was going to say there was multiple Catwomen.
And I think there was only one King Tut, one Mr. Freeze.
Well,
One Mr. Freeze?
yeah, that wasn't Vincent Price. Who was Mr.
Uh,
Freeze? An old character actor. Like,
I thought it was Vincent Price.
no, Vincent Price was Egghead.
Oh, that's right. Oh, jeez, I can't think of his name now.
You get everything here, folks. 1960s television trivia.
Yeah. If you know, leave it in the comments. But anyway, like I said, I was flipping around stations on a Saturday night or Wednesday night one night, and I came across AEW Collision, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna watch this unbiased. I'm not gonna go into it knowing that Tony Khan can't manage a business. I'm not gonna go in there remembering there's 900 wrestlers on the roster.
I'm glad
I'm
you
gonna watch
forgot all
this.
of that when you went to watch it.
Huh?
I said I'm glad you forgot all of that when you went to watch it.
Well, it was hard to forget it, but I did manage to get past it. But like the first match was a 10-man tag team match, and I'm like a 10-man tag match, and it was like it was there was so much chaos in the ring that you couldn't keep up with it, you know.
And
But they're fighting outside the ring, they're fighting inside the ring, and I'm like, it was almost like sensory overload, you know.
and I think that's
And
why they burn out their audiences.
mm-hmm. And then, they had horrible promos. These guys, I don't know where these guys went to learn how to cut promos, but they need to go back to school. And it was just, and the announcers were cutting in during the whole match, telling you about what's coming up. They're not commentating about what's going on in the ring.
They probably couldn't keep up with it. Even Excalibur was like, I got nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, up next we're going to have, Brian Danielson and some other guy. And it was not an enjoyable watching experience.
That was the sidekick from Blank Man. Have you ever seen Blank Man with Damon Wayans?
No,
Blank man and other guy.
Other guy. All right. Well, anyway, I watched an AEW program, did it unbiasedly, and it was not good. So
How I've likened it is a confusing mess, broken up occasionally. Occasionally, a good match will break out, and you will be like, "How did this happen?"
Yeah, and that didn't happen.
Yeah. So, and it is a shame because it has some of my favorite wrestlers there. I do really like Malachi Black. I really like Buddy Murphy. I like Danielson because despite some of the silliness that he's taken part in, and I mean they got Claudio Castagnoli. They have got good wrestlers there.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was one other thing that's been going on, and that's Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer are getting into regular punch-ups over AEW. So it started out initially, Brian was sick of AEW constantly going overtime, and then the DVR cutting off, and he misses the end of the show.
Yeah.
And Dave was trying to defend it, and it's not defensible. It is a formatted television show, so you should be able to get all your stuff in if you format the show correctly. Dave was constantly trying to compare it to live sporting events, and it's like, yeah, Dave, those are not things that are formatted to go off at a certain time. You have no idea when the ninth inning is going to be. That is not the same with a wrestling program that you're scripting segments and that you are staging throughout it. So you didn't format it right if you're constantly going over. Well, then this past couple weeks, Brian Alvarez has taken issue with the fact that AEW had one of the challengers for the world title in the women's world title wrestling a match the day before the pay-per-view. And he tried to say that WWE doesn't do that. Well, I have to agree with Dave this time. Dave was right. Dave said that's been going on in wrestling forever, and it has. It used to be that you were a territory, so if I wanted you to wrestle the champion the next week, you would go over a big star or the champion in a non-title match the week before. They do the same thing on TV. On WWE, they did have Randy Orton beat Ludwig Kaiser, Gunther Stooge, the Monday or the Raw go home show before the pay-per-view where Randy took on Gunther for the world title. Yeah. So they do that all the time. So I agree with Dave, but I think they're probably just getting on each other's nerves because I think Brian Alvarez is tired of Dave defending AEW, and I think the constant defense of AEW has hurt Dave's credibility. Dave Meltzer, in my opinion, was the best wrestling journalist of the last 20 to 30 years.
Oh, absolutely.
And the best journalist of the last 20 or 30 years should be impartial, not the defender-in-chief for one of the promotions. He would never have defended WWE, nor should he, like he has defended AEW. And I think maybe it's grating on Brian Alvarez's nerves, like it's grating on everybody else's nerves.
Yeah.
What would we have to get into an argument about where we would start having verbal punch-ups on the podcast? I can't think of anything.
No, I was gonna say we both hate country music.
Yep.
You know, we basically like the same things.
Well, you love auto racing, and I hate auto racing.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna punch you up over it.
No, nor am I gonna eviscerate you because you really don't care for MMA that much. Yeah. You know, everybody has their taste. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what we would do. I don't think there's anything that me and you would have a punch-up about.
But yeah, to see these two longtime bosom pals having these verbal brouhahas over pretty minor stuff.
Well, remember WCW? we'll stay here as long as TV time permits.
Yep.
They always had matches go over.
Yeah, and they'd show, the end the next week or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would cut off at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week, folks. And then they'd show the end of the match the following week, if it was worth, or sometimes they'd come back and they'd say, yeah, we went off the air last week and there was some interference and the match was over. If it wasn't worth showing, they wouldn't show it.
And I like to back during the territory days. Especially they would have the and now let's we taped that match at the Omni that wasn't going to be shown on TV, but here's going to be on TV now because somebody taped it.
Yeah.
You were going to get to see all the big matches. It might be a week later or 2 weeks later, but
Yeah.
you'd like to see it.
I think we've been pretty much around the gamut of news that's out there. I am going to leave you with just a little bit of history. I did finish Shooter in a Work World, John Pesek, and the Promotional Wars of 1920.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing that project, available on Amazon, by the way, in ebook, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook. I'm getting to be such a shill, aren't I?
You are.
But anyway, now that I've been a hopeless shill, Pesek, when I was researching that book on Pesek, first of all, I went into that thinking that he settled a couple promotional wars. Well, he settled one. He started one, and then he double-crossed somebody.
Oh.
I had always believed, and I did the research on the double-cross. I didn't look into the period after the double-cross as closely as I should have. So I looked into the double-cross really closely. I looked into the contest between Lewis and Stecher in 28 in St. Louis that settled that war that went on for a few years. But I never looked at really the interim period. And during the interim period, how it's always been told, and this is out of the Fall Guys, which I've said many, many times, it's a great place to start your research, but that book is problematic. It has a lot of information in there that is not correct, or that is only part of the information and you don't get the full story.
Yeah.
So I had always believed that after the double cross where Zbyszko beat Munn and then Stecher beat Zbyszko in both of those matches. So the double cross was April 15th, I think, in Philadelphia in 1925. It could have been the 16th, but it was in Philadelphia. Zbyszko drops the title to Stecher in St. Louis, and Munn drops his version of the title to Lewis in Michigan. And the title is divided now because Zbyszko beat Munn legitimately, but a couple of the athletic commissions that Billy Sandow had a lot of influence with refused to recognize Zbyszko as the champion. So Munn was still the champion of Michigan and Illinois. And Lewis beat Munn for those versions of the world title. And then Stecher was basically recognized by most places as the world champion.
Okay.
For the next 2.5 to 3 years, the titles were divided. So you had two people claiming the world championship, Stecher and Lewis. And it's always been said that Lewis went over the next 2.5 years, 3 years, defending the title like he had never lost it, like he was the world champion. And that Stecher was afraid of a double cross from his partners who had helped double cross the Goldust Trio and Munn and them. So he basically almost retired the title for the time that he held it. That is not true. He did fear double crosses. Stecher did double cross him, but he did not intend, or he did not just go into a hole and not defend the title for 2.5 years, which is what my next project is going to be on. It's going to be on the Divided Championship that 2.5 to 3 year period where Stecher held one belt, Lewis held the other belt, because I want to clear up all the misconceptions, because I believe that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Stecher didn't wrestle for about 6 weeks after the double cross by Pesek, probably because his arm was hurt. But he did start defending the title again. So I want to clear all that up. I think Stecher has gotten a raw narrative written about him, a wrong narrative, and a raw deal in that narrative because of the false information that's been put out there for years. And one of the reasons is Stecher could not refute it after the early 1930s. So Stecher started suffering from mental health issues at least in the 1920s. And he was basically taken advantage of by con men in the early 30s, around 31 or 32. And they basically ripped him off of all of the money he had made up to that point.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and some terrible investments. So
yeah,
he wrestled for a couple of years as much as he possibly could to try to recoup some of that money. And and he eventually had some kind of nervous breakdown. He spent the rest of his life, so from 1934-ish to 1974 when he died, he spent in a state hospital up in Minnesota.
Oh, Jesus.
Because that's where Tony Stecher was the promoter. So I think
How sad.
Yeah, they were from Nebraska, but I think he stayed in a state hospital in Minnesota because that's his brother was the original promoter of Minneapolis, Tony Stecher. Vern Gagne bought the Stecher promotion after Tony Stecker's death.
I got you.
So for 40 years, the guy was. But Lou Thez told a story in his autobiography, Hooker, about Joe Stecher. So Stecher, it was around 38 or 39. So he has been in this home for 4 or 5 years. And he is like 45 years old when they go and see him. And he wrestled Lou Thez and these 3 other young wrestlers, just one after another at the state home, and beat all of them like nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, Thez said in his mind the 2 greatest pro wrestlers ever were Lewis and Stecher. And I think that he's right on the money because Lewis, when Lewis and Stecher first started wrestling in the teens, Stecher was ahead of Lewis. Lewis eventually caught him and surpassed him, but Stecher was actually ahead of Lewis at first. But because he had the nervous breakdown because he lived in the state home, he was never able to refute any of these stories told, so they just became accepted, and everybody thought, oh yeah, he just basically retired the title. No, that's not what happened at all. And so this next project, that's what I intend to clean up, is the false narratives around that period, talk about what really happened.
So any words of wisdom or...
yeah, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. I said, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon after Solomon's soccer game.
Okay, that sounds good. Hey, and if I don't know if our listeners out there have a liking for Twizzlers like I do. I haven't had any Twizzlers in about a month. If you could bring me a packet of Twizzlers, I'd be appreciative.
All right, I'll bring you a packet of Twizzlers.
All right, thank you, sir.
And so, well, after tomorrow, you got like a week left.
Yeah, and I will be ready to go. I'll say that.
I can say you could chant Attica as we take you out of there.
I'm gonna say, I am Spartacus.
All right, bud. Well, I will see you tomorrow, listeners. You will hear us next week, and we will definitely be back to doing a history topic next week. I know you got a little shortchanged on that this week, but we'll be back with a history topic next week.
Well, that was partly my fault that I haven't been able to do a podcast in a while. So
yeah, we had to get caught up on all the news that's fit and unfit to print.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, anyway, listeners, thanks for tuning in this week. This is Dangerous Dan, the right hand man, signing off.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.